If you don't have one of these on your tank, then I'm here to tell you that your fish are dead already. And I'm going to tell you why. Here we go. You might think the most important piece of equipment in your tank is your heater, or maybe your filter, or maybe your WAVEMAKER, but I'm here to tell you that it's none of those. The most important piece of equipment you can have in your tank is a controller. Well, okay, maybe second to a battery backup, but not just any controller either. I'm talking about the Inkbird 306A. And I've been using the ITC 308S for years and never had a problem with them. But the 306A, it's on another level. I'm gonna be doing an unboxing of the 306A in just a minute, and I'll show you what makes it so different and useful compared to other controllers. And stick around to the end of the video because I'll be setting this up on one of my own tanks, and I'll show you how to set it up, plus how to make adjustments so it's appropriate for your own fish. But first, I'm gonna go over controllers in general and tell you why they're so important for your fish and your tanks to keep everybody alive. And if you feel comfortable in your knowledge about controllers, then feel free to skip ahead a minute or so, but you might find something in here that you find useful anyway. I'm just saying. Now don't get me wrong, I mean having a good heater is vital to the health of your fish. It's one item you don't want to skimp on. But good heaters can and they will fail eventually. All of them do. And they can either fail in the off position, which will make your water temperature slowly drop in the tank, or even worse, they can fail in the on position, and that'll cook your fish. And that means it's turned your useful aquarium tool into a weapon of mass destruction. At least to your fish. And you might be thinking, this probably never happens. I mean, heaters probably don't stay in the on position and cook everyone's fish. Google it, and you will be surprised at how many people have been at work and driven home to feed their fish and found them all lying cooked dead in the tank. But it's fully preventable if you use a controller. Now for this next part, I'm gonna show you some of my fish while I'm talking so you don't have to stare at my face the whole time. I'm sure most of you will appreciate that.
100%.
Your aquarium heaters have a thermostat that reads the temperature of the water in your tank. You set your heater to the desired temp and then it drops to a certain level. The thermostat will read this and send a signal to the relay to get the power going again. Then, when it reaches the desired temp, it shuts off. But heaters, even good ones, are prone to failure. They won't last forever no matter how good they are. And like I said, this can be a quick death sentence for your fish. Redundancy is a wonderful thing with aquariums, and that's true with heaters. If one fails to turn on, then the other will probably still be functioning and heat the tank up, which will give you time to set the other replacement installed. And by the way, always have a backup or standby somewhere. However, if it gets stuck in the on position, how much is that second heater going to help you? Well, not at all is how much, because your fish have now started to become stir-fry, or whatever you call boiled fish. And I don't eat fish because it's gross, so I don't know what it's called. Anyway, for that reason, you will want to get 2 heaters instead of just one, neither of which should be strong enough to be able to heat the tank by themselves, even if stuck in the on position. For instance, if your tank needs a 300 watt heater, then get 2 150s instead. A 300 watt heater in the on position is much more dangerous than a 150, but both heaters can still get stuck in the on position, and even though it's unlikely, at those lower wattages like the 150s, together they can cook your fish. And that's why you need a controller to regulate your heaters. Plus, I know some people just have one heater anyway. And by the way, if you don't utilize the concept of redundancy in your aquarium systems, make sure you check out my video on big mistakes. It's in the upper right corner. Controllers are much less likely to fail than heaters, so you plug your heaters right into the controller, and that will allow the power onto the heaters when it gets to the low setting you choose, and then it'll cut the power off when it reaches the high temp you set.
It's really brilliant. I have my heater set up on each end of my tanks, and then a probe from my controller goes right down into the middle of the tank, so it gives a more even, accurate reading of the overall temperature of the water. That way the heaters aren't turning on and off more often than they need to, because when they turn on, that causes the most strain on a heater or any electrical device. That's why when you burn out a light bulb, it always happens when you flick the switch on. But this video isn't really meant to tell you about heaters or heater placement. It's to tell you about how incredible this Inkbird 306A controller is. And I was sent these controllers in exchange for an honest review, but it'll be a completely honest review. I'll never lie to you guys. And I do need to let you know something just between you and me. I'm the one who contacted Inkbird to see if they would send me these in exchange for a review. I was already gonna buy them and do a review on them anyway. Point, Cichlid Charmer.
In the box, you'll get the instruction manual and the Inkbird ITC 306A Wi-Fi aquarium heater controller unit. It has a temperature range from 32 degrees to 113 degrees Fahrenheit, so if you have some fish that like 113 degree water, you're still good.
Sweet.
It comes preset to 77 to 78 degrees Fahrenheit, which is where many of us keep our tanks, but you can easily change that in the unit or in the app. You can set the desired temp in 1 degree increments for extra precision. I haven't had a controller come calibrated correctly yet, so I just use a good probe, and I've stolen my wife's Pampered Chef thermometer, which is excellent. She's still looking for where she left it, poor thing, and she'll never find it. The Inkbird can handle up to 1200 total watts, so if you have a huge tank that needs a lot of heating, then you're in the clear. There are 2 redundant relays to shut off the heater elements when they reach the desired temperature. So if one fails, then you still have a redundant relay making sure the heaters don't stay in the on position. Same thing with the temperature probes. If one goes down, say hello to redundant probe number 2.
Hello.
Either probe by itself, though, is all the controller needs to keep functioning. Sweet. You can set the low temperature alarm and high temperature alarm to let you know if things break bad. And if you set it up to Wi-Fi and your app, then you'll get a nice push notification to your phone or tablet that all hell's breaking loose back at the manor. While connecting it to Wi-Fi and the app is awesome, you don't have to do it. I mean, you might think that Wi-Fi gives you brain cancer, I don't know.
Does it?
Or you may have a problem with Wi-Fi that I have, which I'll get to in a minute. But it'll work just fine without it anyway. The unit shows 2 temperatures. The top one is where the tank is right now, and the bottom one is what you have it set at. I like to keep mine displayed somewhere where I can just walk by and take a quick peek to make sure I shouldn't be concerned about anything. Right on the unit itself or in the app, you can set and adjust the desired temperature, the low and high temperature alarms, the continuous heating alarm. Yeah, it'll even warn you if the heater's been in the on position too long. You can set Celsius or Fahrenheit and calibrate the controller based on the reading of your wife's thermometer. If you get an alarm notification on your phone, then you can properly freak out and get your ass back home ASAP.
So I won't be able to take advantage of one of the main reasons to buy one of these controllers, and that's the Wi-Fi. You see, when I set up my router system, I set it up with only 5 gigahertz for some reason, and now I don't have 2.4 gigahertz, which this controller requires. I'm gonna take advantage of all the other features, which still totally make it worth it to switch all my controllers out to this one. I mean, I always had this sneaking suspicion that something might go wrong with my controller and a heater at the same time, especially if I'm on vacation, and then all my fish are gonna die anyway. And now I have redundancy built right into this little miracle machine, so if one of the relays fails or one of the probes fails, I still have another one. And that's very comforting for me. Now I'm gonna get this thing switched out on Alcatraz first, but like I said, I'm gonna switch them out on all the tanks. Let's get to it.
First, I have to remove the old ITC308S, which is still working perfectly by the way. It has a dual plug-in like the ITC306A, but instead of both being used for heating, one is dedicated to cooling. Because of that, I bought a Y-cord that would allow me to plug both heaters into the same heating outlet. Now I can just plug each of my 2 300-watt Eheim heaters into its own outlet. I'm attaching both probes together at about 3 feet from the right end of the tank. I would do the middle, but I think this looks a little better. Keep them hidden a bit more. I also added a suction cup, so I could attach it on the lower right corner by the heater as well to hide it even more. But maybe you really like the way these probes look. Attach them to your front panel if you like. I mean, it's your tank. I don't care. My treasured stolen probe, and in a minute it's going to tell me that my tank is the proper 79 degrees. Time to make some other adjustments though. The first ones on the menu are T51 and T52. Whichever of these you set the highest will be the point at which your heaters shut off. The other setting will be when your heaters kick on again. It doesn't matter if you set the first one or the second one at the highest setting. The 306A will know. AH is the alarm hot setting, and I just keep mine 1 degree higher than my high tank temp setting. The alarm low I set for 1 degree lower than my low setting. Continuous heating alarm I set for 2 hours. My probe shouldn't be on for more than 2 consecutive hours based on their wattage and the temp we keep our house. CA is for calibrating the unit if its reading is off. Again, mine was perfecto. CF, I keep mine at Fahrenheit, but if you're in a weird country, you can change it to Celsius. And just kidding, I know we are the weird country. And if you have 2.4 gigahertz internet, then you can easily hook this unit up to the app, and like I said, geek out on all the fun things you can do with that.
Hit the like button, why don't you? If you don't have a controller, then you need to stop whatever you're doing right after this video. right after this video, and go get one. I mean, like right now. And if you do already have a controller, then I'd fully recommend making the switch over to this Inkbird 306A. Just having those fail safes and redundancy totally make the $50 worth it. But not only that, having the option to hook it up to Wi-Fi to let you know if something breaks bad while you're out, that totally makes it a no-brainer. And you don't want to be a bad fish keeper, right? And speaking of bad fish keepers, you need to check out this video right here where I respond to a comment on one of my videos that basically said, I'm a bad fish keeper for keeping African cichlids. Damn. You've been watching the Cichlid Charmer, and as always, God bless. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.